World Cup downhill racing is incredibly difficult at the best of times. It is a test of strength, fitness, and most of all skill. A lot of the tracks are a challenge to even ride down, let alone do them as fast as humanly possible. Then you get to a track like Val Di Sole that is already one of the most technical and physical tracks in the world. And it rains. Full on for several days before the event, which turns the Black Snake into the hardest track riders have had to negotiate since the disgusting 2020 Leogang World Champs. Despite the difficulty, the junior ladies threw themselves into the racing with some super impressive racing. But we didn't get to see current series leader Heather Wilson. And the news from the hill is that, like so many others, she had a pretty bad crash. Apparently it happened this morning before the race, and when she got to the bottom she was feeling a bit fuzzy and dizzy. They took that as a strong sign of concussion and decided to sit things out to recover over the 2-week break. The sleeper result of the category came from Swedish rider Ella Svegby. She appeared out of nowhere mid-season in Leogang to finish just off the podium at her first World Cup in 4th position. For my snooping, she has been racing enduro and downhill the last few years locally in Sweden on an enduro bike before picking up some support from Canyon and taking on the World Cups. Win Masters actually spotted a result in Leogang and gave his privateer project prize, which included cash and mechanical support for this race, which is rad to see. This weekend, Ella rode a super impressive race until a big crash between splits 3 and 4. Before the crash, she was comfortably in second in front of the incredibly talented current junior world champion, Iris van Leuven, who finished in 3rd, and the back-to-form super skillful Sasha Ernest, who finished in 2nd. We will see her on a podium this year, I guarantee it. The current queen of the junior Kiwis is the first-year junior Eliana Hulsbosch, who just laid down another wild run to take her first World Cup win of the year. She's definitely not scared to crack on and let things get wild, but it does create some rather sketchy moments. What's super impressive though is that when things get loose, she doesn't lean back and let things get away from her and get even worse. She stays centered, stays in charge of that bike, and gets things under control. The same thing happened to her in Leogang, which lost her a lot of time, but it paid off this week. I think we'll see her chill and find her flow as the season goes on, and she leads the series going into the next round. And oh, also, you shouldn't really compare them, but Eliana was actually the fastest out of all the women, including the elites. Pretty impressive. The junior men utilised their biological advantage to up the pace and attack the gnarly track here in Italy. We saw some impressive early performances from Ollie Clark on the Junior Sinter factory race team, who was incredibly strong and fast down that last sector of the track, and John Mosel on the We Are One Momentum project, demonstrating some solid skills and some top physical conditioning. Milan Falke was the first to show some race-winning pace with insane upper splits, but then he faded toward the bottom to finish in 3rd. Asa Vermette provided some quality entertainment value on his run with some incredible overcommitment in that upper shark fin turn. Genuinely, no idea how he didn't crash, let alone stay on the track. It was super impressive considering his injured shoulder. It was Max Alran who once again showed everyone an absolute clinic in smooth, flowy and measured riding. The advantage of riding like this is that you use the least amount of energy, which is just so important on tracks like this, as you're doing the minimum amount of pedaling and the minimum amount of physical input to save energy. The reason everyone doesn't do this is that it's nearly impossible to be that precise and composed. His little unweight to float the back wheel over the roots and line up the inside in that right-hander to get off the brakes without losing any speed was just insane. Everyone else had to pedal there to match his speed. So cool to see him sitting 13 points behind Asa, who is now leading the overall, which means the battle is on for the series. Also, nice to see the juniors pushing top 10 elite times again. The kids are lit. As is that bird. It is incredibly loud. The weather started to move in for the elite women, with clouds rolling in and reducing the visibility on the upper sections of the track, just like behind me right now. And the rain threatened with some sprinkles falling, but luckily not enough to make a big impact. We unfortunately didn't get to see the top seed Jess Blewett in the finals, as she crashed in the morning before finals and injured her hand. It really was a shame as she was properly back to race-winning pace after a long recovery from breaking her heel last year. Val Di Sole has been like a clock this year. And bear with me on this analogy. So tick, wins in Scotland. Talk, big crash in Poland. Tick, wins in Austria. Talk, gets ill and has a dirt nap in Italy. She'll be disappointed with that, but she still finished on the podium in 5th and maintains her series lead. I'd say this clock theory is pretty solid and she's going to win in Ligier. Everyone was excited to see if Miriam would get back on top of the podium as she is getting back on form. It wasn't to be today as she started well but looked to fatigue near the bottom of the track, showing that off-season injuries impacted her preparation this year. Monica Hrasnik has publicly said in interviews that this weekend that she does not find this track that easy to do, and she has a thumb injury that's made it so hard to hold on through the rough sections. Despite that and a mistake on the upper section, she actually gained time down the bottom splits to almost take the win and finish in 3rd. Less than a second back from the winner and her first podium of the year. Marion Cabarrou continues her consistent year with a consistent weekend. Something a lot of people don't realise is that a rider can win the race but leave with less points than another rider. Marine actually gained the most points this weekend with a 5th in quali, a 4th in semi and 2nd in the final. And she's now in 3rd in the overall, just behind Tanny and just behind Tanny in the race. And talking of Tanny Seagrave, it was her birthday on finals day, which she is keeping secret as she gets closer to the big 3-0. You know how it is though, as you get older, the best presents aren't what others give you. It's usually the present you get for yourself. And Tanny just gave herself a World Cup win, which I think is a bloody good present. Excellent choice, Tanny, and I hope you enjoy it. We'll see if she celebrates her return to race-winning form with another gift for herself at one of the next rounds. So it was very hard to see, and the commentators did debate in it on the live feed, but there was actually rain during the finals of the elite men. The reports from the ground is that it was misting rain from the middle of the elite men, and the riders who rode in the middle of that rain said it did make things a little trickier for those later riders. So bear that in mind. Earlier on in the race, we saw an insane display from Amaury Pierron. Wait, no, that's Dylan Maples. They do look exactly the same. It certainly seems like Dylan has borrowed from the big man as his riding is really coming on, and that deep drop in the lower woods showed how strong he is as well. First top 10 for him in 8th with more to come, I'm sure. I had Finn for the win this weekend after his performance in Leogang, his past results on this track and his pace in qualifying and semi-finals. It was looking seriously good for the Canadian, and he was up on the splits all the way down to the last minute of track when, I don't know, like a camera failed or the producer pressed the wrong button, but the live feed skipped one camera too far down the hill and we couldn't see Finn for like an agonizing 10 seconds. And in that 10 seconds, something happened, of course. And he lost a 1.5 seconds and then ended up in 3rd once it was all done and dusted. So frustrating. He will be stoked that he did beat his teammate Luc Bruni, who finished up in 5th place after a clean run. And the two Specialized riders made a nice little sandwich with the electric Troy Brosnan as the delightful filling, who finished in 4th place after a really calculated and very aggressive run. Dakota Norton was absolutely fantastic up on the gnarly Italian hillside. It takes a really special rider to be able to get out of the main line and make it work at race pace. And Dakota delivered. He got onto the inside we ghosted yesterday and he let the bike run wide into fresh dirt in a few places. He got his wheels onto smooth dirt where others were just getting shaken to bits. The only place he looked out of control was during that insane drift in the bottom turn, which was just delightful. On any other day, that was the winning run. I even messaged everyone in the filming team's group chat that Dakota has won with 12 riders still to go. It was not to be though. Why? Because Amaury Pierron. The weather even knew what was up as the clouds actually parted around the start hut to get out of the way of the monstrous Frenchman that was about to come charging out of that start hut. Amaury was on the absolute edge of grip, pushing that bike to its limits. He carried speed with power and crucially control the entire way down that mountainside. We haven't seen him ride like this since before his injury, and no one knew if he would return to this form, including himself. The fact that he came back from the neck injury, the risky surgery, and all the doubts surrounding it just to get back on top of that podium in the space of 1 season, it's astounding. Well done. But how the heck did he win by almost 5 seconds? In the elite male field, that is usually separated by hundreds or even thousands of a second. Now, I know I've already gone quite deep on the recap in this video and the editor will be cursing me right now, but this is the story that I'd like to tell today. These anomaly races, where the winner has a large winning margin, don't come around often. You do see it happen in the juniors and the elite female categories more often, as the pool of professional riders just isn't quite as deep. It is getting deeper though, which is great to see. The elite male winning margins are usually a bit tighter, so let's look back. Last week in Leogang, 2.394 seconds, which to be fair was kind of eyebrow raising as it was quite a big gap. Poland, 0.064 seconds. That's more like it. Scotland, 1.840. Also slightly abnormal. Last year, Val Nord, 0.121. Ludenville, 0.777. Léger, 0.150. Snowshoe, 0.495. Lenzerheide, 0.496. These days, the racing is normally really tight because the tracks are well established and consistent, and there are many riders who could win, so they all go at a similar speed. So, what causes these anomalies? The first thing is conditions. The harder the track, the more chance of a mistake. And if there's 400 wet, slippy routes between the start and the finish, it only takes one of them to put you offline into the bushes, or even just slightly offline so you lose flow and speed. All it takes is one rider to slip on none of the routes and also ride everything in between the routes as fast as physically possible, and Jimmy McRoutemaster has won the race by 20 seconds. When it's dry, the track is easier and there's less mistakes, and that makes the times a lot tighter. The race time is also a factor. The longer the clock is counting, the more chance of a mistake and the bigger a time differential for the equivalent percentage of speed difference. That was complicated to say. A 1 minute track with a 1% difference in speed is 0.6 of a second at the finish. And a 5 minute track with a 1% difference is actually 3 seconds by the finish. So, length of track matters. The other factor obviously is the rider. A rider has the capacity to go slow or fast, and a lot of riders talk about how they rarely ride at 100% speed. At this speed, when you're right on the edge of grip and control, it takes a lot of energy and it's very easy to push things past the limit and crash. Racers will normally back things off to about 95% to maintain consistency and maintain those energy levels. When you see someone sectioning a track, they'll often go way faster on that one section than they would if they were doing a full run, because they're putting all their efforts and focus into that one piece of track. Sometimes a rider can throw caution to the wind, aim for that 99% run, and have every line and feature just fall magically into place. Or you can get a rider, when they are on form, can dance that edge and put time into the best racers in the world. We had a gnarly track this weekend. It was filthy wet, making it super technical. A 4 minute track allows plenty of time for mistakes, and Amaury Pierron is one of those riders who can dance that 99% edge, and it is so good to see him back on track doing what he does best. Thank you very much for watching. This one was a bit of an epic. Drop a like and a comment with your interesting input onto that discussion, and we'll see you in Léger in a couple weeks. This is what it was like during the race. It's like not raining, but it's raining. I'm not wet, but I am wet. You know? No, you don't know. Okay, that's fine. Nobody understands me.